Hello, this is SPACEBOX, where I watch things on the internet and read articles for future humans to look back and think, what the hell was happening? Well, future humans, I don't know. The Blaze released a video to start out this. The Blaze released a video to start this video off. What really happened in Maui? Because I don't know. I don't know what really happened in Maui, and I'd like to know.
Lahaina, Hawaii became a household name after one of the worst fires that the country has seen in over 100 years left 98 people dead. You saw the headlines. The news crews showed up and performed their ritual obligation. They blamed global warming.
And obviously climate change is a factor.
Climate change in many parts of the world is increasing vegetation dryness.
The consequence of global warming and storm change is changing things.
They feigned interest for a week.
I call
They
bullshit.
found victims to put in front of the cameras. The president showed up, made jokes and left. And that was likely the last you ever heard of Lahaina. Smoke was still rising from the ashes behind me, but it was time to move on.
Look at all this destruction. Wow, it got hot here, didn't it? It really got hot. Look at this.
Nothing to see here. They wanted us to forget the story, just like so many forgot the story of East Palestine, Ohio. But we didn't forget. We're here because the story didn't end.
Bro, I didn't forget. I still talk about that all the time.
The story of Lahaina is the story of a corrupt and incompetent elite, one fully committed to destroying what they couldn't create. The cameras are no longer here because they don't want you to know what really happened to Lahaina, but we do. I'm Lauren Chen, and this is
Who's Lena?
Journals. Hawaii is obviously a beautiful place, but unfortunately it's also no stranger to natural disasters. There are tsunamis and tropical storms that hit here, in addition to it being where Pearl Harbor happened. So you can imagine that the emergency system for the state is pretty robust. For some reason, the day of the Lahaina fire, the emergency system warning never went out, and we still don't understand why. Right now, we're on the way to speak to Travis Miller, who is a longtime resident, and he actually lost his home in the fire. He was on the ground that day, and we're hoping he can tell us a little bit more about what happened. And I understand you're a photographer, right? Did you happen to get any footage of that day?
Yeah, I was taking videos on my phone pretty much the whole time. You know, I knew it was a historical event happening.
Apocalyptic over here. There's a few highlights in here, like this is when the fire starts. This is when the fire is really starting to kind of roar there. You can see the power lines here had come down in the street. This is the one police block down there.
On the morning of August 8th, strong winds blew down a power line above Lahaina. Firefighters put out the flames and left the scene. According to the official story, the flames came back around 4 p.m. and spread rapidly, eventually destroying 2,700 structures.
According to the official story. But I saw a thing about a church that looked like it had been lasered in half. I'm not sure if that was real or not, so I'm not going to say anything about that, and I couldn't find it when I tried to look for it again. But it was an actual video. Like, it didn't look like it was fake. Just who knows, man. I wouldn't doubt it.
For years, politicians and the public utility, Hawaiian Electric, were aware of the risks, but they ignored them, investing instead in green energy projects.
Whatever it was a major failure on our government's part to help people get to safety.
I'm just trying to get everything wet. I don't know what the it's gonna do, but holy shit.
The list of mistakes is mind-boggling. A lot of officials responsible for emergency management were unqualified for their jobs.
Just send someone yell at us that it's coming.
That's very shocking. That people that are involved with the government and helping people through natural disasters were incompetent and didn't know what they were doing. Super shocking.
And he was the same guy that said it wasn't coming our way.
The chief of the Maui Emergency Management Agency, Herman Ndaya, had no experience in emergency management and wasn't even on Maui the day of the fires. We obtained hundreds of recorded 911 calls that reveal a horrifying level of dysfunction.
They blocked off all the exits, so the only way for us to get back home was on the bypass, and the fire flew over. My car's on fire at the bypass.
It took more than 5 hours for the official in charge of water management to release water to save the town. During a debate last year, he said water usage should be based on equity.
Let water connect us and not divide us. Like we can share it, but it requires true conversations about.
Yeah, you got to give it to the poor black people first. You have to give it to the homeless people first. They're the ones who matter the most.
Equity.
As officials like him dithered, people in Lahaina were struggling to figure out what to do.
Ma'am, what do I do? I'm at Lahaina Strip. The fire is coming our way.
The rot at the top translated to unmitigated catastrophe the day of the fire.
Lahaina is burning.
Are you able to get your children? No, I'm not.
We are not allowed to evacuate yet because they said they're taking a pole out of the road.
And when the fires restarted, firefighters were on their lunch break.
You can see here in Miller's video how police and the public utilities were blocking the roads out of Lahaina, pushing residents towards the ocean. 911 operators received dozens of calls regarding people trapped downtown.
My boyfriend lost reception, I think, because I have been on the phone with him. The lower road that leaves Lahaina past the Boys and Girls Club, has anyone gone down there to check? Because I guess a bunch of them were just stuck.
The key to surviving was to ignore the roadblocks, to disobey what authorities were telling you.
And I know one guy
Yeah,
got
no
out of that
shit.
situation just by going around.
If you listen to the authorities in times of disaster, it's probably going to get you killed because that's what they're doing. They're trying to control traffic. And that means holding you there while there's a fire burning the entire island and telling you, no, you can't go through here because there will be too many people trying to go through here. And then you see that there's nobody going through there. You look over the other side of the barrier and it's just, there's nobody and just open road. I've been there, man.
Around a roadblock.
So he only got out because he basically ignored the police.
Exactly. You know,
So-
that's the case with a lot of people, I feel like. And instead, it ended up being impeding people getting to safety and people burned in their cars.
The emergency alert sirens around town were idled. The lucky ones found out about the fire from neighbors and social media.
Looking out of a window, there's a huge fire that just started. And we don't know exactly what
Outside your window right now?
Has there been any transparency since the fire about why police were doing?
I want to know what the firefighters who helped everything and everybody, I want to know what they say about it. I haven't seen anything or heard anything from the actual people that were doing the work. I've only seen like victims and people who caught it on video.
What they were doing about exactly, why didn't their emergency notification system work?
No, I don't think so.
Are there text notification systems? I know I get
Yes.
alerts when there's Amber Alert, someone
Yeah.
goes missing.
Yeah, we get that.
But you didn't get that day.
Yeah, no, we didn't get anything. We got an emergency alert the very next day for a road closure in town for an accident. Just the siren going off would have got people looking outside. If people look outside and see a fire, they're not gonna think, oh, tsunami, I'm gonna run into this fire. People died because there were roads that they couldn't escape and that they didn't know.
The fire was a disaster. The city was
Yeah, and at that point, don't live in the city. And even if you don't live in the city, don't listen to the roads. If there's an emergency, like just, if you can't drive on the road, but you see there are ways to out of there, take those ways out of there, go off road. Like don't listen to the roads. The roads will get you killed when they're on fire.
wiped out. But what's happened since is even more shocking. The response has been a catastrophe. No one's talking about it.
Where have you been staying? What's the living situation been like?
It's definitely changed. I think I've been in 4 or 5 different places now, and 7 weeks or so. Right now, I am at an Airbnb. The hotel is where the Red Cross was placing people, the Hyatt.
Is that where we're heading to now?
There's still refugees living there, and the refugees or displaced people are not allowed to use things like the pool or the gym or order DoorDash, you know, have a dog walker go by. All these things are zero tolerance policies that will get you.
So they lost their homes and then became slaves to the government. These are all the things you're not allowed to do anymore because you lost your home due to our incompetence.
Evicted.
Why? What's the reasoning behind not being able to order DoorDash?
I don't know.
And so, why aren't you staying at?
Because people are gross and dirty and they do things that other people don't like.
The hotel anymore.
And I came to the Civic Center to get to just look for resources. That turned into a 4 or 5 hour long thing, and I had someone go to walk my dog to let my dog out of the hotel, and because she went to the front desk, that was grounds for them evicting me.
Wait, so
notice.
Wow.
She just went to the front desk?
Yeah, she
to
didn't
ask about it?
She never got into my room. No.
What?
Yeah.
She just went to the front desk to say, hey, would it be all right? And just asking, that was enough.
Yeah, and they treated us like we were second-class citizens or third-class citizens.
We heard the same.
Well, that's because you are to them. It's not that it's like you are. It's because they literally see you as second and third class citizens, probably even fourth class. Because third class citizens are like homeless people, and they think you're worse than homeless people.
Same story from everyone we talked to. Human tragedy made worse by the response.
You know, I come up here, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, come up here pretty much every sunset that I have time to come up for, because at the very beginning, this is one of the few locations where people had cell service to call their families.
Blake Ramelb is a Lahaina resident who's taken to social media to advocate for victims of the fire.
One of my really good friends, who I consider a brother, I knew his dad was missing. First time I saw him was right by that tree over there. And I keep replaying that in my head. When I saw him, I just saw him break down. He fell on his knees. I went up to give him a hug. I didn't know what to say to him. And other than like, we're gonna help find your dad, bro. And you know, this past weekend we went to his dad's funeral, and it just became that much more real then. I have this survivor's guilt that I still have a roof over my head, but every night when I'm going to bed, I'm constantly thinking about those families that don't know if tomorrow is going to be the day they get kicked out of their temporary housing, or those people sleeping in their cars.
Yeah, they're not trying to help anybody. They're got their minds focused on war. They hear tragedy in Hawaii and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm going to donate." And then they go right back to the war talks and president. They don't care. Like, you're on your own. Sorry.
Now we're about to talk to Mike Cicchino, and the reason why he's meeting us over here where we're staying is that not only did he lose his house in the fire, but he's actually just been evicted from where he was staying. Hey Mike, so nice to meet you. I'm great. Thanks for coming, come on in.
Cicchino tried to evacuate, but police blockades trapped him on Front Street. He and his wife only survived by fleeing into the ocean, where they treaded water for more than 3 hours.
We gotta get out of here. Just go.
We got out of a giant fight with that fire for our lives, almost died multiple times, and now we've just been in a fight with the government. It's just, they pretend like they're helping people, and it's all for show.
We're from the government, and we're here to help.
For people. Yeah, my mom just texted me.
It took a month and a week for us to get that $700, and I had to kind of fight with them to get that $700. A lot of folks don't realize how expensive things are here. I mean, a hotel room could be $500 to $1,000 a night. So you can imagine an Airbnb, your money gets sucked up really quick. And giving us $700 and we're a month and a half in.
After you've lost your house, your business,
everything that we've owned, like our whole entire life.
Before the fire, the average cost of a home on Maui was $1.2 million. A typical condo cost $800,000. Lahaina was one of the few working class areas on the island.
So it's been really, really, really tough to find housing. And you're not relaxing, and you're constantly fighting with FEMA and places to get help. It drives you crazy. It really does. It feels to me they want people to give up, which there's been times where I felt I'm giving up on this, but no, I still need their help, and I still haven't received any help from them, and it's a month and a half in.
When you think about it, when people like Mike and his wife and so many of his neighbors, they were being kicked around from hotel to hotel, not knowing where they might be sleeping. That
That's
night, under the Biden
fucked, man.
administration, FEMA was sending their employees to DEI trainings that cost tens of thousands of dollars to host, and putting their own employees up in hotel rooms that cost upwards of $1,000 a night in some cases, which is insane. We are giving these people $700 per household, maybe, if they can stomach all the paperwork, while these bureaucrats are, it seems like, spending money like Saudi Arabian princes on things that don't even matter and that certainly don't help Americans.
The destruction of a historic working-class city and the subsequent mishandling of the recovery is a big story. Independent journalist Nick Sorter showed up to cover it.
Hey, Nick.
Hi.
Good to see
Good
you.
to see you.
Thanks
for
speaking
coming
with
out.
us. Yeah, for sure. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've experienced?
The most haunting part of my experience here was when I went and asked a question to the mayor right early in the beginning of this entire situation. You have no estimate as to how much mayor. Right early in the beginning of this entire situation. You have no estimate as to how many children are missing?
I guess we can end this right now. You guys lie.
You know, the mayor didn't like the question. They tried to get security to force me out, and I wasn't going to leave. This is a rental. This is my 4th rental.
Dude, that is an answer that people need to know. Like, what are you doing to help the missing children? Like, how many are there, man? And then they just dodge the question or kick you out and treat you like a criminal for asking.
Actually, that
Why 4?
There's been a lot of harassment, I would say, of not just me as a journalist, but I've encountered stalkers. I've had people following me. At 5:45 in the morning, this guy came to my hotel while I was doing a live shot and came up behind me.
Hey, what's up, Nick? I've been trying to reach you. Been reaching out to you on X. You're supposed to be meeting with people here. What victims have you had?
Okay, yeah. So this is so you're seeing this live right now. People actually tracked me down. Just at that point, it was pretty obvious that somebody doesn't want me here.
I wouldn't be holding my back to him. I'd have my hand on a weapon and looking straight at him with my front turned to him, ready to fight. Because you track me down, we're gonna fight. That's not happening.
All right, we're in Kula now. They also had fires the same day as the ones in Lahaina. Is that one of the alarms that just didn't go off?
Yeah, so there are actually a lot of these alarms all around the island. The Hawaiian government, when the sirens didn't go off in Lahaina, said that they didn't want people to think that there was going to be a tsunami or something. Now, I don't know, we're 10 miles from the shoreline up here in Kula, where there was a wildfire. You have a siren, and that didn't go off at all. You're not going to convince me that this was up here because of tsunamis.
So if there is a fire occurring inland, the sirens...
Well, I hope that they changed it to where now there is a specific alarm for fires. I bet they didn't. I bet they have done nothing.
Will be of no use.
This is when we first figured out that the government was blatantly lying to the people here to just try to make the story go away.
So what would you say are the biggest lies that you've been trying to bring attention to while you've been here?
The death count, nobody believes at this point because it keeps fluctuating and changing. Why didn't they alert anybody? Why aren't they telling us how the fire started? You know, it just, all of those things put together makes this look to the people that live here like there's...
Yeah, I've heard like 5 different ways the fire has started from people that have just done investigating and nothing from the actual government because they've been saying multiple things that are different also. Like, no, I think they're muddying the waters on purpose. And I really think that nobody's got their head in anything except war and presidential election. All the time. Forever. Like, not just election year, like for 4 years of president. That's all that people talk about. Disaster strikes, we talk about it for a week. They know it, everybody forgets it.
Something nefarious going on.
You've been here almost since the very beginning. Have you been able yet to actually go and see the devastation firsthand up close?
Absolutely not. You can't even drive down the road and pull over, or else a cop is going to come up behind you and get mad at you because of the fact that you might be taking pictures of the place.
The level of secrecy is shocking. The FAA has flight restrictions in the airspace above Lahaina. Military checkpoints and barricades surround the burn zone. Police are posted on an overlook above the city.
You know what I think needs to happen? I think there needs to be about 1,000 people storm the place and take as many pictures as they want. I mean, it's already destroyed. What's it gonna hurt for people to get in there just to see what's going on?
8 weeks after the fire, there was a total ban on media access except guided tours to preferred outlets.
Of course.
If we had a southern border that was secure, I'm telling you, there's hardly any way to actually even get through.
If the Lahaina fire reminds you of the 2017 Las Vegas massacre, it may be for good reason. Maui's current police chief came from Las Vegas, where he led the response to the shooting. The lack of transparency led to a proliferation of theories about what happened. People speculated about directed energy weapons, Oprah Winfrey, and the Air Force, among others.
Well, the reason that everybody, and I say everybody, I mean a lot of people here, are believing these conspiracy theories at this point, because a lot of their conspiracy theories have already come to fruition. They ended up being true. And all that is doing is...
Yeah, like the entire year of 2020, every conspiracy theory that I thought ended up just being straight up conspiracy, and it was true.
Making people less and less trustful of their government officials.
Unfortunately, these conspiracies have distracted people from the reality, which is actually much worse. While people online were bickering about directed energy weapons and the press was going on about global warming, people didn't even stop to think about more plausible explanations. Hi, good morning.
How's it going?
Good, how about you?
Good, welcome.
Thank you, I'm Lauren.
I'm John.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for...
I have a perfect explanation. They didn't care if the island caught on fire, because if it does, that means that they can take it over and sell it. And they don't have to kick all the people out of their homes, communist dictatorship style. They can just let it happen naturally and just don't let them back in there because it's dangerous. And then, oh, we're going to bulldoze it. Oh, whoops, we spent too much money. We're going to have to sell some of this land. I'm sorry. Who's going to tell them no? They're the government. And then you know what? Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, and people like that, Jeff Bezos, all those types of people, they're not even just those big names. It's going to be the smaller billionaires that nobody talks about because they're not in the news that are going to be buying so much land. People already are doing it. Not yet any that were, people's properties that I know of. But definitely there's some people capitalized on it, such as Mark Zuckerberg.
Coming, yeah. Sorry,
beautiful
I'm
up
eating
here.
an apple and I'm on camera. Well, my name is John Leake. I'm a true crime author. I've written a few true crime books. I'm particularly interested in organized crime, particularly where organized crime intersects with the government, corruption within the government. And I loved Lahaina. So when I heard the news that the town had burned to the ground, I knew immediately I wanted to write a book about it, figure out what exactly happened. Some of the basic elements were in place for a terrible fire. The wind was averaging about 70 miles per hour. A downslope wind is a very drying wind. It's very low humidity. It actually causes everything to dry out like a hairdryer. And we have an arson problem on Maui, a significant one. I mean, there are numerous documented cases of arson in recent years. Could it be that there are nefarious interests that wanted Lahaina to go away and just had an old-fashioned arsonist start the fire? I mean, that seems to me a more plausible investigative lead than proposing that the U.S. Air Force brought in a drone strike. I think it's important to...
Yeah, but people are stupid, including the people who are trying to make the story go away. And instead of actually sitting down and be like, wait, we don't know what happened. We're investigating it. let's look into arson because that's an obvious one to go to. No, they're like, no, there's probably this. We guarantee you it was not this. It was not aliens. It was not Chinese lasers. That's all they wanted to talk about, is what it wasn't rather than what it was. And that's where the conspiracy theories come in.
To look at what is a plausible explanation rather than jumping to the high-tech explanation.
When wildfires erupted in Canada over the summer of 2023, the media rushed to assure us it wasn't arson. Months later, when the story was no longer front-page news, the media admitted it actually was caused by arson. Maui's steep mountains block the trade winds, which results in lush tropical slopes on the north side of the island and extremely dry, fire-prone areas in places like Lahaina. The town was nearly destroyed by fire in 2018.
We're here approximately where the fire started, and as you can see behind us, there's just all of this invasive grass. The locals actually apparently call it fire grass because it acts like kindling, and you can imagine a combination of all of this with the water restrictions and 80-mile-per-hour winds. It's literally a deadly perfect storm.
The disaster has been such an acute expression of the breakdown.
And people were studying it and knew it was the perfect time for a fire to just destroy everything. And they could have put preventative measures in place. People were warning people that there was going to be a massive fire to burn down the entire island. Nothing was done. Because nothing ever gets done until it happens. And then we're reactionary. And it's not our fault as the viewers, because we don't know anything about Lahaina. But everybody involved in Hawaii, they involved in the running of Hawaii. They knew, and they didn't do anything because they don't care. Because if their property burns down, they can just build another one.
Of trust in our government institutions.
From the outside looking in, I feel like initially there was a lot of public support for Maui. We saw that Joe Biden at least came and visited. Since then, I think we've heard mention of $700 per household. It kind of seems like there wasn't any follow-up.
The disturbing
$700 per household, but we've sent billions to Ukraine, and those aren't even Americans.
Elements of this story begin right when the disaster occurred. It didn't seem like the U.S. government really was interested in Lahaina. Biden was kind of browbeaten to interrupting his vacation in Lake Tahoe to fly out here.
Can you come talk about Maui? Can you come talk about Maui, Mr. President?
He flies out here and kind of dodders around and makes some incoherent statements.
To make a long story short, I almost lost my wife, my 67 Corvette, and my cat. That's a hot ground, man.
It wasn't that long ago, in 2005, that the Bush administration was completely upended by Katrina. You talk to anyone from that area and they're going to remember, heck of a job, Brownie. That seems like nothing compared to this, but the standards are so low now, and the president has a D next to his name, so nobody cares.
The timing of this is so stunning. On August the 23rd, the Biden administration announces, I'm trying to think, how did Dr. Evil, $12 million for the 3,600 people of Lahaina. During that exact same period, the Biden administration and Congress continued to send tens of billions of dollars to Ukraine.
And why do you think that the U.S. government response has been so lackluster?
There's no big interests who, are really established in Washington that care about the place.
It's estimated it will cost...
Yeah, see, that's the most viable explanation to me. This is a good video because that's what happened, is that all of this was because the government was not interested. They were they had bigger interests in places like Ukraine. That's where they wanted to send their money because those Ukrainians need it more than we do. Apparently.
$5.5 billion to rebuild Lahaina. Just a few weeks ago, the Pentagon said that an accounting error ended up giving another $6.2 billion to Ukraine. So we can see where the priorities are.
If it's weapons, if money is going to Lockheed Martin, to General Dynamics, to Raytheon, great, send it. The sooner the better. If it's Douglas fir, board feet, laborers swinging hammers, helping to rebuild, I mean, that's very, very clear accounting. We're having a hard time finding the money.
Right now, we are on the way to the Maui County Council meeting on the future of Lahaina. And from what I understand, this is the first time since the fires that government officials are actually having an open dialogue with the community.
And as you can see, there are a lot of picketers.
Yeah, they don't want to talk to the people because the people are mad at them, and all they're going to do is make it worse because they're going to be like, all right, get out then. That's what always happens. The government gets yelled at, and then they're like, okay, well, you all have to leave, and we're going to do nothing because you're assholes. You're mean to me.
So we're hoping that some of them might want to talk to us and tell us a bit about why they're out here right now.
We're here to basically get out our Lahaina community to make sure that their presence is felt, that their voices are heard, and that we have not just a seat at the table, but we have a say in the rebuild of Lahaina.
It's 50 days after the fire, and only now they are coming to Lahaina to meet with us and asking for our input. We don't know how they're getting away with this stuff, and so today some of us are going to ask for people to hold them accountable for what they're doing in Lahaina.
We ask that you come before our group now and you give us your kuhani, your spirit.
Thank you guys for coming out, and we will now officially begin this meeting.
First of all, there are too many decisions being made about us without us. Everyone loves to pimp out Lahaina, then sit back and collect millions of dollars only to improve your districts and make quality of life better for your residents. Guess what? We're done. You want the money so badly? Pimp out your districts. Lahaina has been raped long enough.
It ended up being absolutely packed in there, and there definitely seems to be consensus among the locals that they want to be involved in the planning, but there's a concern that that's not going to happen, that they're going to be essentially sold out to all of these special interests and big businesses.
Oh yeah, no, they have the right to be worried because they're not going to get what they want. The government's going to do what they want. They're definitely going to give everything to special interests and big businesses. They're going to make deals, be like, hey, Walmart, you can have this whole big plot of land for all of you and your partners if you give them $500,000. But you give us $1 billion, and that's the deal. You give them 500,000, we get $1 billion. That's the government.
To the island in the form of tourism, but that money isn't going to be reaching the pockets of the locals. Makes you wonder, though, how much the politicians actually care and whether they're going to listen.
Politicians never let a crisis
Yeah, well, their mindset is give me the money, give me all the money so I can distribute it to all the things that need to be done, because people don't know what they want to do. They don't know what they need. It's better in my hands because I know better than they do.
Waste. Within days of the fire, the governor showed up to announce that the state would take control of Lahaina.
I'm already thinking about ways for the state to acquire that land.
To Hawaiians, it's a familiar story. In the 19th century, Hawaii was a self-governing country until American businessmen overthrew their government.
Queen Liliuokalani was forced by American citizens to abdicate her right to the throne.
Since it became part of the U.S., developers have used crises to expand their control of the island. Hawaii has rapidly become a haven for wealthy tech moguls and celebrities. Billionaire Larry Ellison owns 98% of the island next to Maui. Mark Zuckerberg, who owns a $100 million property on the island of Kauai, filed multiple lawsuits against Native Hawaiians to enhance his own privacy. And on Maui itself, Oprah Winfrey reported owns 1,000 acres, including 870 she purchased earlier this year at a rock-bottom price. History, it seems, is repeating.
Some are getting calls from real estate agents offering to sell their property.
A Maui fire victim is sounding off about realtors trying to sell properties that were destroyed.
We're about to meet someone who actually goes by the name Uncle Russell, which I love, and he's...
Some people are selling their properties that were destroyed. And other people aren't buying those properties. You know who's buying those properties? Giant corporations.
Apparently a pretty serious community leader here.
My grandfather graduated from Lahaina Luna. My daughter graduated, and like I said, I graduated and have a lot of family and friends who live in Lahaina.
After a tragedy has taken place, unfortunately, developers, people have come in and essentially tried to take the land. Is there any concern that what happened in Lahaina is setting the stage for that to happen once more?
Well, absolutely, Lauren.
I just want to remind all you real estate investors around the world, like Lahaina is not for sale.
But I know people died, lost their homes and lost their businesses, and our community is devastated from that. I can see the powers that be wanting to just erase every...
Smell an uprising. Because that's going to have to be what's going to happen to get these government officials to stop. Because you know what's going to happen when you start raising your voice? They're going to start kicking you down, and then you're going to get mad and start scratching at the walls, and then they're going to tie your hands behind your back.
Everything so that they don't have to deal with any cultural, historical significance.
Now there's nothing left to protect.
Yeah, there's nothing left to protect. So now we can just bulldoze it down and level the playing field and then bring in their smart city or whatever they're trying to do.
Every single person we met had the same concern about the future of Lahaina.
How are these people that had their homes burned supposed to pay their mortgage? My guess, and I'm not an expert on this, a lot of these things are going to default back to the bank. Then they can just resell them to other people.
The future, I think, is going to be a grind. It's going to take years.
We want to make sure Lahaina stays Lahaina, but we can also make it better.
For all the failures of the top-down response, there's still hope in bottom-up solutions, in what Hawaiians call the powers of ohana, meaning family, and aloha.
I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody, but since the very get-go, since the beginning of this entire thing, it's been community helping community, ohana helping ohana.
We owe it to our kupunas and to our Creator just to stay true to aloha. So it's like to send aloha to the world and prayers out to the rest of the world who are suffering. And so our heart goes out to all of them and our big mahalo for their love back to us.
It's a cycle you might recognize, especially if you live in a place like East Palestine. Tragedy strikes, and within days, the politicians and the media arrive. They pretend to care, but nothing changes and no one's ever held accountable. Everyone moves on, the victims are forgotten. But in this case, what makes it even crazier is that the same people who are responsible for botching the response are actually going to be profiting from it. If anyone's going to save Lahaina, it's the people of Lahaina and what they call their aloha attitude.
Remember in like the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s? I say that because that's the era that I grew up in. What happened to the Lilo and Stitch, Hawaii, and the Ninja Turtles, New York? In all of these places that used to be amazing in these movies as a kid. But now they don't make movies about these places anymore. They make up new places because you can't show what these places are actually like today. And it's very sad, man. What happened?